Seniors Aging Well seminar series. This is, we've been doing this since January, and now it's November, and it's great to see so many familiar faces.
And some new ones too. Yeah.
Yes, and they've been coming consistently. When we first started this endeavor in January, and we came up with the schedule for the whole year, and we never thought we'd get even through 3 of them. And say,
well, we thought we would, but we were scared about it.
Nervous, yeah.
Yeah, we committed to it,
right.
So we said we'll do it.
Yeah, we committed to it, and we put the schedule out there, and so here we are. So we're also looking to build our program for next year. We're going to take December off because everybody's usually pretty busy, and we have a wedding in December that we're planning for as well. Not ours, we're already married. Our daughter, Kelsey. So we're going to give you a break, but we're going to roll back in January. And we're still putting together the schedule with the topics for the next year. We have been asked to take the show on the road, so if you want to see Jeff and Kelly on tour, you might want to get your tickets now. We're going to be at a couple of different community senior centers in Groton, in Littleton, in Wellesley, and potentially more. But we want to keep this. Yeah.
Free coffee at the end. Yeah.
We can do that. But for those of you who don't know us, I'm Jeff Turcott.
Kelly Kurtz.
And our business is Simply Well Seniors, and we help seniors navigate the journey to the next place they call home. We're realtors, but we're different. And one of the reasons why we started this seminar series is because of the type of work that we were doing and the clientele that we were working with. We saw that there was an awful lot of education that they were seeking.
Yeah, we saw a big voids and big gaps in what was being offered for families. And after experiencing it myself with my own family, we just realized that we needed to help fill in these big chunks of missing spaces. And so that's kind of how our business evolved organically. Started out as organizing, downsizing, home staging, and then we added the real estate piece, and then we just kind of put all the other pieces in place with move management, estate liquidation, junk removal, all those things. We kind of networked ourselves with a lot of great people to be able to provide all those services, to be the one-stop shop for our clients and their families.
And we've done some extensive education and certifications. We are both certified senior housing professionals. We have been now for a year and a half, and there's only a handful of folks in the United States, about 130 of them, that have that certification to be able to serve this clientele to the level that we are. So that's a little bit about us. There we go, I got to work. So today's topic, and Kelly and I will go over a few slides before we introduce our guests today. And just a couple of housekeeping items. Again, we're at the Fidelity Bank Community Room here in Leominster. And I'm gonna try and slow down. I watched the last video that we did, and I'm like, why is he talking so fast? So I'm gonna try and slow down. Just relax. So if you need the restroom, they're out the door and to the right. If you need to leave early, that's fine. Elevator up. You don't need the fob to get up on the elevator. Okay. We're going to, if you have a question, please jot it down, and we'll have some questions at the end. Your question, quite frankly, might be answered during the presentation somewhere in the middle as well. So caregiving. This is this month's topic. How many people in the room, just curious, have been a caregiver for either a loved one or most people? Yeah. Yeah. So it's a big stage of life, moving into that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we all were at some point in terms of being a caregiver if you're a parent, caring for your children, but then roles reverse, as we'll talk about later as well, and then caring for an older parent or a family member.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the definition, just from dictionary.com, providing care for the daily needs of someone that is unable to care for themselves, not necessarily a senior parent, but could be. The care may include addressing the physical and or emotional needs of someone that requires continuous support and attention. For those of you who have been caregivers, you know this intimately how this affects your life as well, and your emotions and your physical needs. So we'll just go through a few bullet points here of the emotional demands and some of the physical demands that caregiving, it takes for a caregiver. So, and there's as many as we've listed here, there is that many and more to be listed as well.
Yeah. So we know, just basically what each one says doesn't need a lot of explanation, but definitely worry and anxiety. You're constantly worrying about whether you know it or not. It's on the back of your mind if you're responsible for caring for someone. And feelings of isolation a lot of times because you're really consumed in your environment or in the environment where you're caring for the person, so you don't necessarily get out or talk or communicate with as many people as you might have had you not had that role of being the caregiver. Sometimes we're finding some folks with, and it's very common to have guilt or self-blame, to feel guilty that you might not want to be doing the caregiving all the time that you're responsible for. Emotional exhaustion, we all know we can get burnt out, and it takes a toll on you because it's things that, as I mentioned, you're thinking about it even when you don't realize you're thinking about it. You've got to hurry up and get home from the grocery store because you need to give your person medications, or they may need to get to the bathroom, or you've been gone a little too long that you're worried about a fall or something like that. And resentment and frustration we talked a little bit about, and the role reversal makes it difficult. If it's your parent, you were the child, they were the parent, and now you're caring for them as if they're the child oftentimes, or even an older child who may have some special needs that you're providing care for longer than you might have anticipated had they not had those special needs.
And there are support networks, there's counseling, there's respite services to help manage some of these demands. So not only emotional demands, but physical demands as well. Many caregivers, some of their tasks obviously require some lifting, some assisting with some mobility potentially, and physically strenuous tasks. As the population ages, we're aging in parallel. So I'm not as young as I used to be, although I feel like it sometimes. but I'm not go all the time myself. So that's the same with caregivers, that their limits physically are shortened too. Exhaustion. Now, oftentimes caregivers they sacrifice sleep because again the worry or the physical need to assist.
Get up in the middle of the night and it disrupts your sleep pattern, so you're really tired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which cause sleep deprivation. Their health gets neglected. Caregivers may prioritize their loved one's health over their own because they're not focusing on that, not eating well, not getting enough exercise, again, not getting enough sleep.
Yeah, and we find sometimes an elective surgery, like maybe you need to have your knee replaced or your hip replaced, you put that off as long as you can because you'll be down for a while, and so you sacrifice yourself and your own health for the person you're caring for. So sometimes by the time you get to take care of yourself, you're past the point of resilience in a lot of ways because you're just emotionally and physically depleted.
Mm-hmm. Some other factors: increased stress, which can add to the sleep deprivation and the exhaustion. We know stress can do that. Can contribute to high blood pressure, headaches, or other stress-related issues. The risk of chronic pain from the lifting or the physical work that you're doing as well. Also, physical isolation. Not to be neglected, lacking time for social activities and exercise because all your time is made up of caring for your adult, for your parent or someone else. So you're not out in the social work anymore. We do know friends that have cared for family members, and oftentimes it was, we're gonna go out to dinner. Well, we can't because they need to be caring, and then after that time went past, and they provided the care for their folks, and then they got reacclimated back into their social circles. So, but what they tell us is they wouldn't have done it any differently either. So, by recognizing that can happen. And then reduced energy levels. Certainly when you're exhausted, you gotta just get up and do it oftentimes. Anything you want to add to that?
No, that was good.
Okay, all right. So it's not all doom and gloom, though. It's rewarding. That oftentimes it will strengthen family bonds when a family comes together to care for a loved one.
Maybe taking, if you have different siblings that have different strengths in different areas, being able to have everybody use their strengths or their gifts to be able to help complete the whole process of caregiving so it doesn't all fall on one person.
Creating lasting memories as well, sharing meaningful time with loved ones and creating those memories or just reliving them and talking about them as you can. That's always important. Also fostering intergenerational connections. We talked a while ago about the role of grandchildren in seniors' lives and how that's becoming more and more prevalent. So the intergenerational connections often happen here as well.
Really the privilege of making a difference, knowing that you were able to care for someone towards the end of their life or during a period when they really needed your help, can help you feel fulfilled in a lot of ways because you feel like you really stepped up and comforted somebody when they really needed you. So that can also be a positive experience in addition to having some stressors. It can be rewarding.
Mm-hmm. But also it's an opportunity to learn and to grow. That caregiving oftentimes can teach patience, resilience, empathy, or stronger empathy. Those are valuable personal growth experiences that people can learn from. And then the satisfaction of helping others. I think we all kind of have that inside of us as well, just to be of help. So that's the human connection, part of this, and it shouldn't be minimalized. That it's not all it's stressful and I'm tired and
there's some real positives to it as well. So we're really excited today to have two great ladies join us to be our panelists, our guest speakers. So I want to introduce them and have them come up, and we have some questions to ask of them, and then we'll also open it up to questions that you might have. They both have wonderful resources in the community and are very knowledgeable. So we're going to start with Angela Ashton. Jeff made a great screen to introduce you. Very professional. So Angela has over 25 years of experience as an occupational therapist and a care manager. She works with the aging population in a variety of settings, including acute care, rehabilitation, skilled nursing, assisted living, and home health care. Angela has earned her Bachelor's of Science with honors in occupational therapy and is the certified case manager, as I said. She's achieved advanced professional status with the Aging Life Care Association. She's recognized as a caring and competent clinician and quickly develops a warm rapport with her families and clients. She's able to effectively evaluate their needs and goals. And she has extensive knowledge about the costs, quality, and availability of the community resources, which is going to be really great for us to hear about today. And she's a strong and effective advocate for her clients. Angela lives in Lunenburg with her husband, 2 daughters, and her dog named Willow. So come on up. Okay. All right, super. While she's getting settled, we are going to introduce Anita Perry. Here she is, behind curtain number 2. So Anita is the author is an author, educator, yogi, and blogger, and has helped people for more than 44 years in the healthcare and fitness field. Anita has her master's degree in education, and correct me on this, you're an ERYT 500, which is a yoga certification. Is that 500 hours? The highest yoga certification you can have. So she's registered with Yoga Alliance. She provides yoga instruction and meditation groups to individuals, corporations, and school settings. She's been featured on local TV and many online articles about yoga and meditation. Anita is the author of Yoga Minute, Yoga Wisdom Reflections of a Practicing Yogi, and her books are up there, so you can take a look at those after. And I know I'm going off script a little, but Anita also runs a radio show. Jeff and I were guests on her show maybe a month or so ago. So every week here in Leominster, she has a radio show, which is great. She was voted Best Yoga and Meditation Instructor 2 years in a row and has been interviewed nationally and internationally. You can follow Anita on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and listen to the podcast Healthy Living with Yoga Anita. So come on up.
Welcome, Anita.
Yes. Super. All right.
Okay. So we have time for questions afterwards.
Yes.
More questions.
questions, and more questions. Yes.
So it's really great to have the both of you here. And over the past year, we've been a part of a networking group of other senior care providers in different aspects of the care. And we know these folks, and we see them on a monthly basis, a regular basis. It's great to be connected with them as well, and we're glad that they were able to join us today. So I think you had the first question.
Yes, I'm going to start with Angela. And so we want to understand a little bit more about the caregiving roles. So what are some of the most common roles caregivers take on for seniors? What do you see, and what are the unique challenges that folks have with being a caregiver?
So as I was thinking about this question, I'm thinking it's more like, what roles don't they have?
Okay, good point.
Yeah, it can kind of start out. I find it sort of obviously it varies. I find that people who may be thrown into caregiving during a crisis, so suddenly they have a family member or loved one who has an illness or an injury, and all of a sudden they're a caregiver. Then there's other people who gradually kind of take on that role. So somebody who maybe has a loved one with dementia or a Parkinson's disease or something like that, where changes occur slowly. So I think they might start out as a protector, almost protecting their loved one. Something's not right. A researcher. A problem solver, kind of looking at what's going on, trying to find information. Of course, then there becomes all of the sort of traditional caregiving roles, like helping with taking on things like medication management. Maybe that's often one of the first things, medication management. I think money management, if they're in charge of paying bills, that can often be two of the first things that can be evident. So having to help take on those types of things can develop into household tasks or self-care roles. So those are kind of the traditional things. I think over time, you're also, they provide a ton of emotional and social support. So the person who is become the loved one or the one needing the care obviously is going through trouble adjusting. So it's hard to see that and hard to deal with those emotions, often maybe some denial, feeling of burden, depression, that sort of thing. So providing that comfort and reassurance, and always trying to be positive, which is not always, which is exhausting and not always easy and scary, I think, for a lot of people, especially in this environment where the healthcare system and services for older adults is very complex and confusing and depending on a lot of different things. So it's hard to understand. I think then, of course, you go into the medical and the health roles, making appointments, taking to appointments, scheduling appointments, calling doctors' offices, which is a whole other problem. Waiting on the phone.
Being on hold.
Coordinating between doctors who may not be communicating, making sure you get the results to the right person. So that sort of medical and health coordination and management. If they maybe end up and they have a decline, maybe they end up in the emergency room. What do I do then? should they be admitted? Should they not? Then what after that? What are the next steps? Does insurance pay for that? There's like all these unknowns. So
it's a whole bunch of education that people aren't necessarily prepared for.
Yeah.
Get thrown into it and kind of figure it out as they go. That's what we hear. That's what you see, I'm sure, and what we're finding.
It's almost
hard
like
to plan ahead for it.
Exactly. It's constantly evolving. Just what I think too, people might find a little schedule and things are starting to maybe go along, and then all of a sudden something changes.
Yeah.
Like,
It's kind of like having a toddler, and you're just finally getting the bedtime routine, and everything's set, and they're eating these certain foods, and everything's going good, and naps at a certain time. Then all of a sudden, it's not, and now you got to start over, and now they're not taking a nap, or you're just, it evolves over time. So it's a constant, for sure.
It's definitely ongoing. I think advocacy is a big part of it. And eventually you might become the decision maker, having to make decisions that are hard. Or even taking on a surrogacy for someone. So actually making decisions that they don't necessarily agree with. And dealing with families disputes, that's tough.
This all sounds like it could be stressful.
Yeah, no.
No, it's easy.
Not at all.
So easy. No problem.
My question is for Anita. So, when caregivers, how can yoga help manage some of this stress and
Oh my goodness. Well, I've been there. I took care of my dad and my mom. Well, my mom first and then my dad. And so I went through all those things that you mentioned, Angela, trying to navigate that while I was working full time and running my business and doing other things as well. And I will say, I've been in the health and fitness business. I'm going to be starting my 47th year. Originally, it was aerobics, and I used to work for Richard Simmons, so I had that piece where,
Should have put that in the bio. That's big news.
I
know. He was the one who taught me about compassion and reaching and compassion through physical activity, and so, but as I've changed, my needs changed. I had to gravitate because there came a time where it really hurt to go outside and even walk the dog. My knees weren't the way, my bladder wasn't the way it was. I couldn't do that up and down stuff anymore. So as my needs changed, I kind of looked for something else that was going to give me the same benefits physically. And what I found was yoga. At the time, like I said, I was a classroom teacher, and I had that emotional stress as well. And then when I started caring for my mom first, that increased exponentially. So I found yoga was the only thing that helped me with my body and my mind and my spirit. All three of those things together is what yoga brought to me. Now, in my yoga practice, I've been doing exclusively yoga maybe about 15 years now. That has now started to change as well. Whereas I did one form of yoga when I first started out, now I'm gradually doing a different type of yoga, and more as I'm going. I do go into assisted living facilities. I do a lot of chair yoga, and that makes it more yoga is accessible anyway, but it makes it even more accessible. So it's something that I found that meets everybody's needs, whether you're really, really active, moderately active, whether you have a lot of time, whether you have no time at all, which was the subject of my first book, Yoga Minute, because people would say, I don't have time to do that, or I'm not flexible, or I can't do that. That's for people who can do twisty things. Well, I say, if you can breathe, you can do yoga. And that's
great.
Yeah,
That's
excellent.
really great. So, Angela, back to you a little bit on emotional well-being, as we're talking, how Anita's saying, yoga really helped in all those assets of mind, body, spirit. What are some ways that you've seen or resources to help prevent burnout or stress from the caregiver families that you're working with?
think, let me see, I think that there's a few things. I think and then none of them are easy. And I think some days better than others. I think having to be able to accept and the responsibility and acknowledge that it is a difficult situation, and there's going to be ups and downs, and that's okay, and it's maybe not going to be perfect, and sort of just helping to acknowledge. I think that the other thing is building a support team around you. We help with a lot of that because nobody can do it alone. It's not healthy for the loved one. It's not healthy for the caregiver. And I think there are lots of resources out there if you know what to look for, and even taking on people's offers. A lot of times people want to help, but they don't know how to help. So they'll say, what can I do? What can I do? Well, we don't necessarily know what to tell them. So I think, building that support team also, whether it's just in family, friends, church, people, and professionals through like a care manager or an elder law attorney or home care services, home health services. Your doctor's offices often have resources. So it's being aware of what's there and reaching out and being accepting of those services. Prioritizing your own self-care, so doing yoga or other, not neglecting your own care. I think we need the caregiver to be healthy. If they go down, then we're all really in trouble.
Right.
So prioritizing that, utilizing the resources in the community. Sometimes a simple reaching out to a home care, having a few hours a week, doesn't have to cost necessarily a lot. But having that one day a week with 4 hours here or twice a week, 4 hours can give a huge break. And that introduces, I think, services early so that the loved one may be a little more accepting. They're going to be resistant at first. And that's going to be normal. But there are ways, I think, that you can slowly kind of introduce it so that it can be a little more accepting. Setting boundaries and limits. So if there's things that, maybe you don't feel comfortable showering your parent. So maybe that's the thing that's, that's just one thing, or toileting or that sort of thing. So looking at options for that and feeling okay about acknowledging your boundaries or your things that are just, I don't feel comfortable doing medications because it's crazy complicated and they're all crazy names and they're always changing every time you go to the doctor or the hospital. It's always changing. So having someone come in who maybe is just looking at medications, helping you to organize or arrange a sort of a system for administrating that. And then the other thing is trying to, as hard as it is, focus on the positive. Gratitude. A lot of the things you talked about with the human sort of benefits of being a caregiver. What are the benefits? It's not all negative. It's not all bad. Your loved one is still there.
Right.
There's still that person there. So trying to find opportunities to focus on that and have those moments, and even if they're small, brief, and fleeting, there's still moments. And
It's true. I've often thought of, a lot of times you see this more when someone passes away or somebody's in the hospital or sick. Someone will send you a text or a call you and say, let me know whatever you need, I'll help you. But then you never know what you need, or you never know what to tell them, or when you're in the middle of needing something, the last thing you're going to do is pick up the phone and call that person because you don't want to bother them. So I often thought, having a list of these are the things that are needed.
Yes.
And then when they say, what can I do to help you? Oh, you can help me. You could run to the grocery store. I need this, this, and this. Or could you come by for an hour on Thursday from 9 to 10? And having those kind of written down things that are more generic. And accepting the help. Because we all think, oh, no, it's all right, I'll just do it. And we take more on because we don't want to burden somebody else. But if someone's genuinely asking, to have some of those things kind of preloaded would be helpful, I think.
And it's fulfilling. I think a lot of people are fulfilled by that, coming over and spending a few hours maybe with their friend who they used to go out golfing with.
Right.
Maybe they can't go golfing anymore, but they can come over and sit and watch golf on TV for a little while and
about
chat,
fun.
have
Yeah.
lunch.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's fulfilling for the person too.
Excellent.
So,
Okay.
you talked a little bit about the positive outlook, as we talked a little bit earlier as well. So Anita, this question's for you about, how can yoga help a caregiver keep that positive outlook and see the positive in it as well?
A lot of yoga is the mind setting. When our bodies, yoga is three-pronged. It's the body, the mind, and the spirit. So yoga will help you, no matter which form of yoga you do, will help you build resistance, will help your body, will help to stretch your body, will bring flexibility to your body, will help to strengthen muscle tones. There's different poses for different parts of your body. When your body feels good, you feel good. You know this, right? If you have a headache, you don't want to do certain things. If your knee hurts, you don't want to do certain things. So when you physically feel good, your mind, your spirit, and then beyond that, your body feels good, your mind feels good, your mind feels a little bit calmer, then your whole outlook of life changes. And last few years, I've been very interested in energy medicine, and I've been bringing that component to my yoga classes as well, where different, I don't know if you've ever heard of tapping techniques, which help to stimulate different parts of your body as well. And I'll show you a few of those a little bit later, which would also be very helpful for you.
Okay. So Angela, just in terms of accessibility for
Accessing,
yeah, or
That's
accessibility,
what
yeah,
we're looking
same kind of idea. For people that are looking for resources in the community, I know people can Google, people can maybe check in with a church or community senior group or something like that. Are there any top few resources that you would share? And of course, we're going to showcase a little more about what you can offer to families, but anything to share with the folks here, kind of where to get started, if there is such a place, or is it depends on the situation, I'm sure.
I think it does depend on the situation. I think a good resource is, if you're just starting out and you're wondering, is to call, oh gosh, what do they call it now? The North Central Aging Services of North Central Massachusetts.
Yes.
Is there offices in here? Is it
Yes,
just
on
in here?
Mechanic Street in
Yeah,
Leominster.
so I think that's
Used to be Massachusetts Home Health.
right. So they are our area. Each sort of community area or counties have a group like that, an aging services group that sort of manage all services for seniors. So I think putting out a call, that's a good place to start. Or looking on there, if you're online, looking on their website and giving them your situation. They can access you to tons of resources. Some of the resources are dependent on income. So depending on income needs, you may qualify, the loved one may qualify for subsidies for those services. Some are free, things like Meals on Wheels, or you can get subsidies for home care services. If they are, then there's also there's always the private pay option. So maybe if you don't qualify for some of the subsidized services, there are other agencies, I think, in town, like home care agencies, I think are a good place to start when you're beginning. Because maybe it's just that concern for one task. So it's the medicine, it's I need to be able to go out once a week to go shopping, and I need a break. So they can often fill in, I think, that role.
Yeah, okay, great. I know a lot of folks, depending on how people have saved for retirement and what they have kind of planned, have set aside or allocated money towards healthcare costs. So maybe they start out with some private care or private duty for the things that they need extra on. And then there's some things that they might qualify for, but finding that right balance, and that's something that you could work with them as you meet with families to figure out where they both best are slotted into the
Absolutely.
resources.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Great.
I think, Anita, you alluded to this a little bit, but so my next question is about incorporating yoga into my daily life. I don't think I have a minute, but I bet I could find one.
I bet you can. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm going to put everybody to work.
Going to get a challenge.
So we're going to do something standing, then we're going to do something sitting. All
Okay.
right, so let's stand up. So you're going to stand up nice and tall with your feet about hip width apart. Okay? Really make that firm foundation with your feet so you feel all 10 toes pressing into the floor. Okay? Now, this is going to help with your balance as well. All right? This is a strength pose. This is called Tadasana or mountain pose. Nice and strong through the feet, nice and strong through the calves and the knees. Bring it all the way up through the thighs, belly button back to the spine, roll your shoulders, drop them down, elongate through your torso all the way to the top of your head. All the way to the top of your head. And now just breathe. Pretend that you can see your breath coming from the top of your head all the way down to your feet and all the way back up again. And I see some of you, your shoulders are up near your ears. Really physically drop those shoulders down. Pretend you have 2-pound weights in your hands and really drop them down. There. Keep elongating through the torso. All right, so what is this pose good for? This pose is good for strength. This is inner and outer strength. This pose helps to release tension in your whole body just by standing here and breathing, paying attention to your breathing. This is a pose I do particularly this time of year when you're in a long grocery line or you're in a store and go up to the grocery checkout and it's 14 items or less and somebody has a whole shopping cart full of stuff and you're like, come on, let's go. This is what you do. Just breathe, just breathe. You can bring your hands out like this, thumbs out to the side. Again, take some nice deep breaths. We're going to talk a little bit about energy. Notice the energy in your palms. Feel that energy in your palms? I'm sending you my positive energy. You're sending me your energy. We're all beings of light. We're all beings of energy. Now I want you to really stretch your arms out to the side. Bring them all the way up overhead. Lift your face if it's okay with your neck today. And I want you to, this is your pose of gratitude. Think of something that made you smile first thing this morning, whether it was your first cup of coffee, whether it was somebody on TV, whether it was your pet, whatever it was, think of that. Recenter the head. Bring your arms back down by your side. Now that thing that you just thought about, put your fingers right here. This is your Ajna chakra, your wisdom center. I want you to tap right here. You're tapping in that joy, that thing that you are thankful for, that thing that made you smile today. Now you're resetting your whole nervous system, So whenever you're feeling, oh, this person is really aggravating me, think about that. Tap in the joy. You change your physical outlook. All right, let's have a seat now.
Thank you. That was great.
Let's have a seat. Let's do a little bit of breathing. So, you're going to sit up nice and tall in your chair. Make sure you can feel your feet making contact with the floor. Again, that nice firming foundation. You feel nice and firm. Good. All right. Back up against the chair. Elongate the spine. Just by doing that, you're opening up the whole body, aren't you? Opening up. We're going to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Now, I taught children for 30 years, and I taught children with special needs. And part of what my specialty was reading and writing and spelling. And so I'd incorporate this into my practice and into my teaching. I'd say, let's spell C-A-L-M and C-A-L-M. Okay, see how easy that is? CALM, CALM, or whatever you're trying to teach them, or REST, REST. You gradually start to slow down your breathing, taking some nice deep breaths and increasing that length of time. So you see I started off with 4 counts. Maybe you think of a word that's 6 counts. Maybe you think of a word that's 8 counts. Maybe you think of a word that's 10 counts for them. And see how that calms down the body. Okay? Now when you're with your loved one, ask them, Dad, what's your favorite word? And he would always give me an Italian word, okay? And we would do that. Okay? And then that would lead to a conversation about, oh, this is the way I would breathe when, because he played in the Army band, and that makes that connection there. And so now something that before your anxiety level was right there, you're really tense or angry about something, that kind of brings it down and it turns the conversation, okay? So these are just little things. It only took a minute, right? Mm-hmm. It only took a minute to do this. It only took a minute to do that breathing, okay? And so these are the little things that you can bring into your life, okay? All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
I think that's great knowing just the example about the grocery store line, because it just proves that you can do it anywhere. It's kind of like when they used to teach us to do Kegel exercises while you're driving. You're like, no one knows you're doing it. You're just doing it.
Right.
So and no one would know in the grocery store. You were just taking a deep breath and going
Right.
through it. So I think that's,
Hands on the wheel.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't put them up
At the
in the air.
doctor's
Drive it.
office, that's a good place.
That's a great one. That's
In your
wonderful.
waiting room.
I find myself, if I'm in the grocery store or standing, I'll list and stand like this, and I have to remind myself.
Yeah.
If I'm going to list, then I'm going to hurt after
Yeah.
a while doing that.
Exactly. Yeah. I guess what I'm thinking next is maybe to spend a little bit of time, start with you, Angela, to talk about how you would first bring on a family, or what your first meeting might be like when you're, as a care manager, when somebody calls you, and kind of what you can offer a family to take some of the things we've been hearing about off of their plate, or to help support what they're able to do. I know you have really a unique role, and I think it'd be nice for folks to hear a little bit about that.
Sure. So it used to be called geriatric care management, and they rebranded several years ago because geriatric didn't sound like, people didn't like that word.
Yep.
So it's called aging life care management now, but essentially it's very individualized. Families are often contacting us different stages in a crisis. So maybe their loved one has ended up in the hospital, and they're telling them, the case manager is saying, they can't go home alone, they need resource, they need help, what am I to do? Or you have a new diagnosis of dementia or Parkinson's or some chronic disease. So we will go in, people will call, I take all the calls personally, I chat on the phone, find out the situation or the story. That's my favorite part. I love that, hearing all the stories and the challenges, and then talking about how, whether I think that we might be a good fit. If it sounds like we are, then we kind of do short-term and then ongoing care management. So it might be just that we're coming in, coming into the hospital, looking at what the needs are, setting up resources, making sure the home is set up so that we can have a successful discharge home. Or maybe they're in rehab and they're worried about how are we going to get home, or can they go home? Or maybe, so we'll help with that sort of crisis. Some families will then, do that, take the recommendations. We might help recommend home care services, work with agencies that we trust, that we have relationships with, to set up services, set up a care plan, so exactly what we want them to, what we think they should be doing, the caregiver, and then monitoring or following up on that. So did they do what we wanted them to do? Is it maybe not, is it a good match? Sometimes it's just not a good personality match. So working with the agency to try and make sure that it's a successful experience. For
You're
some,
acting as more of almost a project manager type.
Yeah,
to
it's like
oversee the
a-
whole process for folks.
yeah, sometimes we call it a professional daughter.
Okay.
So with experience in this, who knows how the system works. If you had a daughter, could be a son, I guess, but mostly it's a daughter, who was local, who were the boots on the ground, who could go to appointments. We can do that, following up on recommendations. So we can do a lot of I think the biggest impact we have are with families or clients who maybe don't have a strong network. So a solo person who's alone, so maybe doesn't have children, or maybe has children but they're far away, or they're busy professionals, or they're not involved, they're estranged. So we can kind of come in and provide that guidance and support, short term and long term, as things evolve, and a little peace of mind. For long distance, actually, children.
Have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. The services sound wonderful, especially to have your experience. I imagine that a family would have to pay for those types of services, and is it, can every family afford that type of service?
It is private pay, yes. So it's not something that's covered by Medicare. Some long-term care insurance policies will cover some care coordination services. Yeah, so it is private pay. It's not inexpensive. I think that generally I find that we can work sort of within people's budgets.
So there are like
Yeah, it's
pieces that they might be able to choose, and then other people might be able to get like
exactly.
a thing that works for them. And
Yeah, there's
maybe just
no.
a suggestion for another person.
Yeah, we can do a consultation where we'll speak with a family and make specific recommendations, even give numbers, names, like local and especially local community, and they can take that information and kind
And
of.
your initial call is where all that would be determined.
Yeah. So the initial call is free. Anyone can call. I call and I'd be happy to chat. We don't charge for any of that. But if it required a more in-depth, like going out and assessing,
Right.
then yes, it is private pay.
So,
Oh, we have a question.
oh, I'm sorry.
To people's homes to assess
Yes.
if it's safe and stuff.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we can go into people's homes. We can meet people in the hospital if that's where they're at, long-term, or in a rehab, assisted living. That's mostly what we do. Yeah.
I remember one time Angela and I were going to meet for coffee, and we had to reschedule because it was like a Monday or something. I don't know if you even remember this, but you had a few clients on your caseload that had ended up in the hospital over the weekend, and she was going to the hospital to check in on them that day or the next couple
Yeah.
days. So she was, she's the person that will follow up and check in to see are they getting the care they need, what's their discharge plan, all of that. So that's really a nice service to offer families because, like you said, if there's someone living out of state or real busy and then they hear that mom or dad went in the hospital and now they're trying to catch a plane to get out here, or they're just trying to figure out their schedule with childcare or whatever, you're already at the hospital checking in and connecting with the discharge planners and all of that.
Right, and then
which is
communicate. We
great.
always communicate with
Communicate
the
back.
family, and yeah, it is.
Really good.
It's very hands-on, very personalized, very individualized. It's wonderful. I feel very privileged to do it. Actually, I think it's. I did occupational therapy and home health for a lot of years, and why I transitioned is because I was going in to people's homes who were needing OT, like home health after you're out of the hospital, and I would see 5 or 6 people a day doing OT, but when I would get there, they had so many other concerns. So this happened or this question. So I was finding I was calling the doctor's office and I was educating them about how, well, this maybe is the next step, or this is how this works. And but we didn't really have time for that. We weren't really allowed to do that. So there was when I discovered this role, I thought this is exactly. I think in a way, it almost, when the good old days when the primary care physician was the one who kind of coordinated everything.
Right.
And that doesn't happen anymore, as you know.
Right.
So we're lacking that coordinator. So if Some insurances will offer like a navigator, or which I think is wonderful, or like the case manager at the hospital can offer some care coordination. I think the big difference between us is that we're not affiliated with any company, any facility, any agency. So it's meant to be completely unbiased, individualized to your situation. We don't get kickbacks from assisted livings that we recommend. I recommend the ones that I trust, that I see have done a good job with the clients that I work with. So.
Okay.
So most people think that they'd rather be cared for in the home as long as they can, right? Avoid going into these certain other type of custodial care places. But sometimes it's the right thing, and it's certainly assisted living. You still have your freedom and all those types of things, but you're getting the care level that you need. But going back to my first point, most people prefer to be at home. And so do you ever find that the services, depending upon who you're seeing at whatever stage they're at, but can help that in terms of their improvement of life, but also just get them on a better track to where they are if they stay at home longer, and all those types of value things that you can bring?
Absolutely. And that's usually the primary goal, the first goal, because you're right, most people want to stay at home. So we'll go in and assess if we think it's feasible, depending on the needs and the home situation, and then make recommendations or put in place supports that can enable someone to live at home. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, we were going to go into some stories
But yes,
next,
absolutely.
but you wanna
So
start with that?
supporting someone, we've been able to support someone with dementia, or a few people who live alone who maybe weren't going to be able to do that for a couple years. By putting in some supports, monitoring them, bringing them to appointments, making sure they're taking their medications. Eventually, sometimes they do need to meet in a more supervised setting, but there are lots of options for home that we can pursue.
So I want to give both Anita and Angela opportunity to, do you have any inspiring stories that you wanted to share while I grab the mic if anybody else has any questions?
Yeah, maybe Anita, any story that comes to mind of how yoga really helped a caregiver or even a client who needed the care to kind of get through their injury or illness, or I know you have lots of stories because you're so passionate about it helping so many people, but anything that stands out that's might be beneficial?
I think they all kind of meld together. I just want to emphasize that a lot of people, when I say I do yoga, or because I teach at Fitchburg State University, I teach for the students and as well as the staff there, and I teach in private locations as well. A lot of people, when they hear I do yoga, and I saw on your faces as well, oh, I can't do that. That's not for me. I'm not flexible. I tried it once and I didn't like it. Or who told me they got dizzy? They tried it and they got dizzy.
Oh, Lana.
Oh, I think it was Lana
Yes.
said when she
Lana,
lays
yeah.
down.
Oh, yes.
The
All
worst,
right.
yes.
As your needs changes, your yoga practice changes. So, like I said, I adapted my yoga practice I always adapt to the people who are in front of me. So because of my education background, I always differentiate. So I always give people, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. I give them 3 ways of doing one different pose. There's a pose for everybody, okay? And if because of injury or something else you can't get into a pose, there's even an alternative pose for that as well. So yoga shouldn't scare people. You don't have to be flexible. You don't have to be sitting on pillows with incense burning, going all day long. That's not what yoga is. That might be for some people, but that's not what yoga is. Yoga is a practice, and it is a practice, and it's still a practice for me. Every time I go to my mat, my practice is different depending on what I did the day before, depending on how I slept the night before, depending on if my dog did something or my my husband irritated me. You know, it is a practice. And every time you go to your practice, your body will be different and your mind will be in a different place. But what it does do for you is it helps you to be present. It helps for you to take care of yourself. It helps for you to get rid of all that other stuff and just go within and concentrate on you. Okay, so on the table there is a QRC code that you're welcome to go up there and you scan it, and that'll give you a sign you up for a freebie. It's a PDF which will condense everything I said for you and tell you how yoga can help you, your body, your mind, and your spirit, all those different things together. So I invite you to please do that.
Do you have classes locally that we can
I do, and I'm in transition with a couple of them. I do teach at Fitchburg State University 2 days a week, and I teach at Dragonfly Wellness Center on Devons. And my Leominster, I'm still looking for another location in Leominster because the place I was teaching at, I'm no longer there anymore. So, and I do events like this, and also I'll be at the library in January.
Great.
Teaching, showing people about chair yoga and how they can incorporate that.
Does anybody have any other questions for Angela or Anita? Just raise your hand. You always do. I was
Uh-oh.
looking for
Good.
you.
I'm loud. You want to play that?
I'll hang on to it.
So Angela, a lot of what you talked about was somewhat clinical in your coordination. Which, to his point, if people want to stay at home, what about landscaping, snow removal, all that stuff? Is that something that you also
I don't do it
take on?
myself. I can tell you that. But yes, we can help. I mean, I've done everything from order things on Amazon for people. Like it becomes very personalized like that. So if they'll call, we might get a call and say, I can't get my computer working today. So we might maybe stop by and help with that sort of thing. So depending on the situation and the clients, yeah, we can become pretty involved, especially for those what I call ongoing care management clients, where we're really kind of become like a family member almost. But looking at if there was a question about landscaping or yes, researching, making sure that those things are in place, making sure that our bills are getting paid. Yeah.
Great. Anybody else? Yes, Carol.
I just have a question. Anita, we're hearing more and more of people who are doing meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a part of yoga, or is it like yoga, but not necessarily a part of what you teach or you practice?
Meditation is a big part of my practice. It depends on who you get your yoga instruction from, but it usually is part of the yoga practice, just for you to just sit and be quiet and just to go within. And then if you want to incorporate positive affirmations with that, I always do that as part of the practice. Like right now, and I do themes because of my teaching. So right now, our theme in chair yoga and in mat yoga is thankfulness. So we'll always think about something we are thankful for. We'll tap that in, like that tap of joy. We're also doing things to prepare the body for digestion. Thanksgiving's coming up. So I'm teaching people about, do you know if you tapped right here, this stimulates your stomach. Right here. It does.
Eat more turkey?
Right here. Yeah. Okay, you want to
Burn
do a
more
couple?
calories.
I'll teach you a couple. So tapping right here, because we're all we all have these meridians. So you're saying, well, why am I tapping my cheeks or my stomach's down here? It's because it's connected. So here's one place. Okay. Here's another place, right here underneath your collarbones, right about here. These are called your K27 points. These are really big in if you ever get acupuncture. These are where they'll put the needles right here.
Related to
Yep, because these stimulate your kidney production, all right? If you go right here underneath the armpits, you had a big meal, you want to rub from underneath the armpits right on the rib cage here, right underneath the breastbone. Okay, this is for your digestion. One of the things for your digestion. Helps to stimulate your digestive juices. And then I got a couple more that are actually on your feet that you would tap as well. So just certain things like that. So that,
Which ones help pie consumption?
all of those.
Calories.
And calories, yeah.
We're doing
Your
that.
liver.
Oh, the liver. The, right here.
Michelle, of course you asked that
Right
one.
There is no, I just I need to know.
Right here, the ankle bone.
On the
The
end.
ankle
So you
bone.
take your 3 fingers, place it right on your ankle bone. Okay? And right about where your pointer finger is, substitute your thumb. And you may or may not feel a really tender point right there. This is called your L3. This is where your spleen, your liver, and your kidney come together. So this helps with digestion, also helps get rid of dampness in the body. So this particular time of year when you're trying to. And you will find, as you get practice this more and more, you will find one side of your body is always different than the other side of your body. Again, depending on what you did the day before. So just really interesting things like that.
Yeah, I love that there's a lot of holistic things like this that you can do instead of just taking another medication or another medication for that
Right.
side effect of whatever. It's nice to just have some of these
And
strategies.
plug for the radio show, a lot of the these things I learned from people who were on my show, because that's a Healthy Living with Yoga Nita. Saturday morning, WLPZ, 95.1 FM, right here in Leominster. And yeah, and I have, I'm so, excuse me? Starts at 10 o'clock in the morning. Kelly and Jeff were on a couple of weeks ago. Angela will be on in February sometime, hopefully.
And they're all
so-
recorded, so people could go back and
And
listen.
then I record them as
Yeah.
well, so you can listen to the podcast too.
Great, yeah.
So I think we'll take 2 more questions and then we'll open up.
This is for Angela. Angela, when people leave here and they talk about care management, if they use case management by mistake, do you want to just clarify the difference between the two?
Sure. So there is a big difference, and we get a little verklempt when when we got called case management. So I think I look at it as a case manager would be someone that would work at the hospital or maybe for your like insurance company or even somebody at the doctor's office, a social worker who would set you up with resources. Would say, okay, this is what's available in the community. You can go out and maybe they'll make a referral for you. Whereas care management is more sort of holistic. We're not just looking at resources in the community. We're looking at the whole picture. So everything from financial, legal matters to medical. Community resources, but housing. It's more looking at the entire care.
For case management, particular case, it's only for that particular incident, that whatever that short-term need is. But care management is all-encompassing of everything
Yeah.
that they need.
Yes.
So care, all-encompassing case needs.
Yeah.
And isn't case management typically more clinical?
I think case management is more focused, one direction. Like it's usually to solve one problem. Like you're being discharged home from the hospital. This is what you need. Whereas I think care management is, well, let's look at the home. Is that even taking into considering now in the future? Case managers, I think, often work for an organization. So there's affiliations there. There's a commitment to that facility to get you out of the hospital or to, set you up with certain services. So our goal is not that. Our goal is whatever our client's goal is. We work for them. So if your goal is not to get out of the hospital right away, then we're going to look at, helping you to achieve those goals. It's very person-centered. It's very individualized. Not everybody's the same. Not every case manager, I think, they're going to see 30, 40 people.
And once you're discharged from the hospital, they're kind of done with your
They're done.
case.
They're not following up
You
to make
follow
sure.
them for a long time after.
No, and they can't. I mean, they're super valuable, and we work with case managers at the hospital. Like, we'll get referrals from case managers who maybe have a patient who keeps showing up at the hospital, maybe isn't. They're making recommendations, they're setting up services, but they're not following through, or they really just don't have the supports, or they're getting calls from the family members from California because they don't know what to do, or.
Okay.
Well, I do know we have Angela and Anita both have some materials regarding their businesses on the table. Anita's books, and Angela has some handouts, business cards, et cetera. So if you want to ask them some more questions one-on-one about something specific, or gather some of their information to follow up with them, I know they would love to have you do that. And
So you'll stick around for a little while?
Sure.
we have a few minutes.
Yeah, I do put out a newsletter monthly, so there's some copies there of this month's newsletter, and there's a contact on there, an email address if you want just to get a newsletter. It's all about caregiving. So there's
Does some
there's
great
usually like
posts
3 little blurbs.
On LinkedIn, she does fabulous articles. that
different
I
things.
read
But you're
all the
welcome
time.
to call, email me. I'm always happy to chat
Great.
to see if it's
Excellent.
Yeah.
something.
Thank you so much. How about a round of applause?
Great job.
Thank you.
So as I said, we're going to take December off, but coming back in January on the 8th, eating for 1 or 2, small but healthy eating on a budget, and we're hopefully going to have a registered dietitian with us as well, and possibly one more speaker. So join us then. And again, next year we're going to be we're still working on the topics for the entire year, and possibly a new space as well. So stay tuned. So thank you everybody
Yes.
for coming.
Thanks so much for coming.